they're lost. They're apart from Christ. They're in a place where they are killing babies, and Jesus is the answer for this. He can transform their heart and transform their life, that they don't do that anymore. And so we want to get into the ditch where it's dirty, it's filthy, right? I mean, you spend any amount of time out in an abortion clinic, and I promise you, you will be flipped off. Okay.
Yep.
If I had $1 for every time I've been flipped off, I'd probably pay off my mortgage. Okay. It's dirty. And oftentimes you can be looked at as someone who's judgmental, right? That Vicky talked about earlier. You're just here to judge people, and why are you not loving, and all those things. It's actually the opposite is true. But we're in this place where it's dirty, where it's uncomfortable to be, and we want to pull the mom out, we want to pull the baby out, we want to pull the abortion workers out, and we want to take them to the inn, and the inn is the church.
I am yours, I am yours, I am yours, send me, Lord. I am yours, I am yours, I am yours.
Welcome to the Gospel-Centered Pro-Life Podcast, a podcast designed to equip, encourage, and challenge you in pro-life ministry, and always with a focus on the gospel. Stay tuned.
I felt your passion, touched your heart.
Use me, Lord, use me.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Gospel-Centered Pro-Life Podcast. I am Vicky. I serve as the Sidewalk Training Director nationally with Love Life, and I am here with Elijah Boyer.
Hello.
Say hey. Hey, Elijah. So we provide this podcast because we love what we do on the sidewalk. We feel like we have a combined number of, I don't know, Elijah's been out there like 8 years. I've been out there around 15. So we've got about 23 combined years out on the sidewalks of abortion centers. And we've learned a lot. And we know that while the Holy Spirit is hopefully directing our words and our actions out there, it helps to have an idea of the things that we have found to be effective with moms in the past. So we've made a lot of mistakes over the years, probably more mistakes than doing things right, but we do learn from our mistakes, and we hope to help you learn from our mistakes as well. So this podcast is focused on sidewalk outreach for the greater purpose of Love Life, which is to equip and mobilize and unite the church to bring an end to the abortion and orphan crisis. But we specifically want to help equip you people who are laboring day after day at that last ditch place where that baby is going to live or die on the sidewalks of abortion centers. And I have gotten so many questions recently about what are the basic, most important things that someone needs to know out on the sidewalk. And we actually have a document that I've shared nationally, and we want to share once a year with our own Charlotte sidewalk outreach teams. We call it our Sidewalk Basics Refresher. And a lot of these things, there is probably not going to be anything new that you don't know unless you're really brand new to sidewalk outreach. But it is so good to review the basics because we tend to learn the basics, they become automatic, and then we forget them, and we don't always do them anymore. And I will say that as the National Sidewalk Training Director, traveling all over the nation, seeing all kinds of teams, I rarely am bringing anything brand new to them. I'm just reminding them of some things that they learned early on and then maybe either forgot or just moved away from. And that's kind of what the Bible does too. You know, the truths are often repeated, the most important truths, over and over and over again. We all need refreshers in those basic concepts. So that's what this podcast is going to be about. It is probably, we're not quite sure how many podcasts it will take for us to get through. I think we have 24 main basics that we want to cover. So we're just going to do, as an added bonus, we're going to do extra podcast, and we're going to work through as many as we can in half an hour each segment until we get to the end of them. So before we start that, though, we like to start with a wonderful story from the sidewalk. And I'm out on the sidewalk a lot. Elijah is also just about every day. So we do gather a lot of stories. And this is one that had never happened to me before in all my 15 years out there. But it was a great story. I was on the microphone and I was actually sharing the gospel. And this was right around Christmas time. So I was sharing the gospel with a focus on the Christmas story and talking about the miracle of Jesus coming to earth as a baby, an unborn baby in Mary's womb, and talking about Mary, but just really talking about miracles. And I finished speaking, and a young man, maybe around 20 years old, came out of the abortion center straight to me, tears in his eyes, and he said, "I need a miracle," and told me that his mother was in the abortion center. But that wasn't what he wanted the miracle about. He said he actually didn't know how he felt about abortion. He felt that, she needed to do it. The situation was rough. And which I did talk with him later. And I think changed his mind about that. But he said he didn't really know God. He knew that he was not living a life that would be pleasing to God. And he was kind of reaching rock bottom. He was sick and tired of his life of terrible choices and feeling that he wanted to escape, but he didn't know how. He couldn't escape all of he called it sin, in fact, sin after sin after sin. And he said, I want to know God. Can you help me? I mean, what what an opening. I just was rejoicing. How often do you get someone saying, "I want to know the gospel. Will you share it with me?" And so I did for quite a while. I spoke with him for about an hour. Fortunately, we had a huge team and I was able to take him aside. And as I shared it, he was just, when someone is just devouring every word, really getting it. He was getting it. And when I finished, he said, "I want to do that. I want to commit my life to Jesus right now." And so he did. He prayed just a beautiful prayer, sobbing his eyes out, committing his life to Jesus as his Lord and Savior. It was amazing. And as soon as I hugged him and praised God and said a prayer of gratitude, I said, "Now here's your first mission as a brand new believer. Go rescue your brother or your sister." And when I said, "Go rescue your brother and your sister," he kind of startled and he started sobbing and said, I never thought of what was happening here as the death of my brother or my sister." And that was a turning point for him in his total turnaround in how he felt about abortion. He literally ran into the abortion center and he was able to get his mom out. And I ended up connecting him with Brian Ottinger, who connected him with the pastor. So this young man is being discipled. And so that he did get his mom out that day. He said she was still on the fence, but she did not abort that day. And he said he was going to continue to work on that. And I actually didn't. I don't know what happened in the end. She did thank me after being angry at me initially. She did thank me for us being there and for us talking to her son. So great story. And Elijah, maybe you could talk about, we always talk about some ideas of practical tips or takeaways from this story. Do you have any ideas with that wonderful story?
Yep. So first tip is to humanize the baby. Like you said, you called the baby his brother or sister.
Yeah.
And so other language, well, first off, calling the baby a baby, using that relational language like brother, sister, son, daughter, niece, nephew. This baby is related to the person who you're speaking to. And so we use that language to bring the humanity of the baby. And the second tip I would say is not to be discouraged because someone is angry with you or because they're annoyed at you being there. Like you said, that mom was annoyed or angry at you, but then she was grateful. Right. And so
Right.
sometimes us standing in that place of sharing with people God's law, reminding them of God's law, it makes them upset with us, but then they're grateful, right? It's what they need, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really, really good point because, she was angry initially with me. And actually, I would say 90% of the moms that we talk to
Yeah.
initially are
Oh,
really
that's why
angry.
they yell at us.
Right. So we can't take it personally. We have to just know they're not angry at us. They're often angry at God. They're angry at their
Yeah.
situation. They're angry at themselves. And we just move on, keep delivering our message kindly and with grace and mercy and truth. And it's up to God to change their heart and to turn them back to Him and to the truth
Yeah.
of who that baby is. But anyway, so we're going to get right into now our basics, and this is where I always start. I think it's where every one of us need to start. We need to know why we do what we do.
Yeah.
We need to know the biblical support, because I don't want to do anything that is not what God would have me do, that is not clearly outlined for me to do. The basis of why I do it has to be scripturally sound. So I think it is so important for, if you're a sidewalk director, this is where I would always start. And when I go to train a team, this is where I always start. When we remind our volunteers, maybe they've been out there for years, and we bring them back to, I love in Revelations, it says, return to your first love. Our first love was because we were inspired by the truth of who Jesus is and his mission for us, his purpose for us, based on who he is and who we are in him. So the positive vision, the inspiration, the biblical support for why we're out there, I think one of the most powerful verses to speak to that is Proverbs 31, verses 8 through 10. Speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. Speak for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. And I can't remember which version that is. Different Bible versions will use slightly different words with the same basic concept, but that we are to speak for those who cannot speak. The baby in the womb cannot speak for himself. I'll often say that baby cannot speak, cannot run, cannot hide, cannot protect himself. So that baby needs an advocate. We are called to be an advocate for that child. And we're to speak for the rights of all who are destitute.
Yeah.
So the most basic right of all of our rights, upon which all our rights are predicated, is the right to life. And that baby is about to be denied the right to life, and from people who have no right to deny that child the right to life, because that right to life is God ordained.
Yeah.
And then we are to also, I love that's verse 10, I think, maybe it's verse 9, speak up and judge fairly. The version I most like says judge righteously, because we're told, how many times we're told, do not judge by the opposition. They're saying you're judging. The Bible tells you do not judge. Well, no, that's not true. But we are not to judge as hypocrites. We're not to do something and tell someone else don't do it. And we are to judge righteously. But it is not our own righteousness, because we have no righteousness of our own. The righteousness is from the Lord. So we are judging with God's righteousness. And how do we know what to judge? Because he tells us. He tells us, thou shalt not murder. We don't have to look around for how to judge whether you should have an abortion or not. He tells us, do not murder. So we're to defend, we're to judge, and ultimately we are there to defend. We are to defend the rights of the poor and the needy. There is no one poorer or needier or more vulnerable than the baby in the womb. So even if we have nothing to offer these moms, we need to return to these verses and know we must be there. We are called to be there, speaking for these unborn little people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so another good scripture that we look to that I think shows how we do this is the parable of the Good Samaritan. That's one of my favorite passages of scripture. I'm not going to read it for the sake of time, but Jesus, he gives the parable of the man who was beaten by robbers and left in a ditch to die. And the religious leaders, they see him in the ditch and they have every good reason spiritually why they should keep on walking and they should not get into the ditch with the man and help him. But the Good Samaritan, he sees the man in the ditch. He gets into the ditch with the man where it's dirty, it's bloody, and it's gross. And he pulls the man out of the ditch and he takes them to the inn. And so where he can receive healing and he can receive help. And so we want to be like the Good Samaritan. Just going back in the story, the whole reason that Jesus is sharing this parable is because the lawyer is questioning him on what the greatest commandment is. And I think Jesus is, and the lawyer, he asks them, and who is my neighbor? And so I think that Jesus is pointing out to this lawyer that it's not enough to just have the right answer. It's not enough to just know this is what the greatest commandment is, but we actually have to obey it, right? If our theology is not our biography, then we're doing something wrong, right?
Yeah.
And so he gives the parable. So we want to be like the Good Samaritan. We see that there are babies and that are in the ditch, right? I can't imagine being any more in the ditch than your own parents wanting to take your life. We see that there are moms who are in the ditch because I couldn't imagine as a parent being in a place where I thought my best option was to kill my own child. And then there are abortion workers who are in the ditch because they're lost. They're apart from Christ. They're in a place where they are killing babies. And Jesus is the answer for this. He can transform their heart and transform their life, that they don't do that anymore. And so we want to get into the ditch where it's dirty, it's filthy, right? I mean, you spend any amount of time out in an abortion clinic, and I promise you will be flipped off. Okay.
Yep.
If I had $1 for every time I've been flipped off, I'd probably pay off my mortgage. Okay. It's dirty. And oftentimes you can be looked at as someone who's judgmental, right? That Vicky talked about earlier. You're just here to judge people, and why are you not loving and all those things? It's actually the opposite is true. But we're in this place where it's dirty, where it's uncomfortable to be, and we want to pull the mom out, we want to pull the baby out, we want to pull the abortion workers out, and we want to take them to the inn. And the inn is the church. And in the church of Jesus Christ is the help that these people need, right? And so that's where we want to take them.
Yeah. All right. So next into some practical basics. And one of the first one, and we do get pushback sometimes on this, team shirts. Why do I need to wear a team shirt? Is a team shirt a good idea? First of all, I will tell you, yes, team shirts are very important. We do the team shirts for some very good reasons. First of all, we want to be seen as a unified front. It is an expression of our unity. We are part of Love Life. The t-shirt actually proclaims two of the most important words of our mission right there on the shirt. The front says hope and the back says help. And those are two of the most important words that those moms are looking for. So we're a walking billboard of hope, the hope of Jesus Christ, and the help of the tangible help of the church of the Lord. So we're wearing them for unity. We're wearing them for the message. It is very important. Next, we want to identify ourselves from other groups. There are going to be many other, sometimes, groups out there. Sometimes they're in opposition to us, and they're usually wearing the brightly colored rainbow vest. Or sometimes there are other pro-life groups, and they usually don't show up wearing any kind of a uniform. But sometimes those other groups, no matter whether they're pro-life or from the opposition, we may not want to be identified with them for whatever reason. We certainly don't agree with the message from the so-called pro-choice groups, but sometimes we don't agree with how other pro-life groups go about giving their message. It may be much harsher than we would agree with, or it may be a focus we don't agree with. So we want to differentiate ourselves from other groups. Well, the shirt does that. they look at the shirt, they know, okay, we're all together. And when I'm on the microphone, I will say, we're from Love Life. We're the people wearing the coral colored shirts that say hope and help. Thirdly, it makes it easier when we're trying to point out to the moms who they should come talk to. If we can say, go talk to any one of those people wearing the coral colored shirt, they know who to go and talk to. And that is so important because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get them to engage with us, not just to, call out to them for 15 seconds across the parking lot. We want them to come over and talk with us. And it helps if there's a visual on who they should come and talk to. And then finally, because our shirts are so cute and they are such an important fashion statement. Yeah, not really, but they are cute. But so wear the shirts. We really do strongly recommend that, and wear them proudly. There are some people that say that they take their shirt off right after they're on the sidewalk. They go home, they change. I actually wear that shirt all day, shopping, kayaking, whatever. And I cannot tell you the number of opportunities I've had to start a conversation about love life because of the shirt. People say, hope. What are you talking about? What's your hope? Or help? What kind of help do you provide? And it starts a conversation and promotes our mission of building a culture of life. So wear the shirts.
Yep. Next thing, team positions. So priorities. So what we've done in Charlotte is we figured out where the most important places are to stand, and then other places that there are to be that are helpful. But maybe if we don't have as large of a team, maybe we're not able to cover all of those places, so that no matter the size of our team, we kind of know what to do. And so I would say for your city, wherever you're looking at the landscape of your abortion clinic, that priority number one for us is the driveway. But I would say anywhere where you know that you are most likely to have a face-to-face conversation with the mom, that would be priority, because the face-to-face conversation is the golden opportunity, right? So we always prioritize in Charlotte the driveways, both to the abortion center and to the call center. And then the next point of priority for us is the microphone, having someone on the microphone speaking. Again, the landscape for your abortion clinic or center, is likely different than it is for us in Charlotte. Or, the abortion center that I mostly lead outreach at is on a hill. And so, the priorities are different, right? My priority is still the driveway, but then the second priority is a little place in the hill where you're closer to the abortion center. So you kind of have to look at your landscape and see where it is that you can be most effective. But I would say priority number one is where I'm most likely to have a face-to-face conversation. Priority number two is where I'm most likely to reach the most amount of people, right? So at the Wendover Abortion Clinic where I'm at, signs are a big deal for us. They don't produce face-to-face conversations, but I know that every mom driving in is going to see that sign, right? And so that's why that's priority number two for us. So another thing, we have to avoid clumping. Okay. I'll use an analogy. So my wife and I, we really like hockey. Just whatever sport you're into, just take this analogy and apply it to that sport. Okay. In hockey, you have a puck that's moving around. Not everybody is on the ice is just hovering over the hockey puck. Or I guess if you've ever seen little kids play soccer and it's like every little kid is on the ball, not going to be fruitful, not going to be helpful, right? So you want to have your team spread out so that when the ball comes into somebody's zone or when the puck comes into somebody's zone, that person is ready and able to do what they need to do with the puck, either pass it or get it into the net, right? And so as a team, we're all working together. We're not just going to be right where the action is at, but we're going to want to be spread apart so that when a mom comes into our area, we're ready to reach that mom. We're ready to score the goal, which is a baby saved and Jesus glorified, right? And so with that, staying focused on what your task is. If you're supposed to be the person calling out, then your eyes need to be where moms are, right? Or where they could be. If your job is to pass out information, then your eyes need to be on the street, right? You need to be focused on what you're doing. And so that means avoiding chit chat, not falling into just, as much as we all love each other, as fun as it is, we're all like-minded Christians. We like the same things. We have to avoid falling into conversation, not only because it takes our focus away, but also you have to imagine when the mom is coming in, her interaction with us is very, very short, and she's getting an impression of us from that interaction, right? It actually kind of goes back to what Vicky was talking about with the shirt. We need to all be wearing the shirt, looking nice. But if we're all sitting there on the sidewalk, just kind of chit-chatting about our life and about whatever, that doesn't paint the picture that I care for you, right? And so we want the mom, when she's coming in, to see this picture of us praying for her, of us trying to reach out to her. That paints a picture of care, and then we can start building trust from that. And then the other thing is just making sure to reach every mom.
Yeah. Yeah, no matter how many times we see them, to really try to reach every mom. And the last one we're probably going to have time to cover in this first segment is using a calendar and the reasons for having a calendar. We use Google Calendar, and we rely on it to keep track of our volunteers' gaps or days when we are not fully covered. We cover 3 different abortion centers. Google Calendar, you can have color coding for the different abortion centers, which is what we do. And it takes the burden off of us as the volunteer coordinators. We are able to give the volunteers access to the calendar. They can put their name on or off the calendar on the days that they're going to be there. And so it gives them ownership of this is their time, and they're supposed to, if they can't serve at the time that they are on the calendar to serve for, then we encourage them to find a replacement. So that this is how we try to keep on top of making sure that every hour of every abortion center, of every day that it's open, is covered, that there will be a Christian witness there on the sidewalk. And they do tell us when they're going to be there or not be there, but that's not enough. We make sure that they get their name on and off the calendar. And there are some pros and cons with using Google Calendar, but we have explored a lot of different calendars, and it seems to be the most effective. And it really takes a big burden off of the sidewalk director. So I think that's all. We got through our first 5 of our top 24 basics. And like I said, we're going to be doing this I think we're going to try and post every week, a video every week until we get through a podcast every week till we get through all of them. But I think that's all we can cover for today.
Yep. And so if you would like to dig into this, Vicky, are we going to post this bullet point list for folks to see? Or are you going to put out an article?
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe at the end, because I actually don't want to give you a heads up on what we're going to cover, because I want you to come and listen. So when we finish the series, if you make it all the way through, then you get the added benefit of the article at the end of the series. How does that sound, Elijah?
That sounds good. We want to keep them on on the edge of their seat,
Right.
Yeah.
I bet you guys just can't wait till the next podcast.
Yep. So as always, you can reach out to us at Elijah@lovelife.org and Vicky@lovelife.org with any questions or suggestions. That's Vicky, Vicky, and Elijah, Elijah. If you would like more information, you can go to sidewalksforlife.com. We have plenty of articles posted, or you can go to gospelcenteredprolife.com to look back on all of our podcasts, or just go to wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you are trained with Love Life, you can reach out to Vicky to get on the national Telegram group. And God bless.
God bless you all.
Give me an outlet for love. Give me an outlet for gratitude. I know it will cost me my life. Nothing's too precious since I met you.